The East-Pediment of the Temple of Zeus at Olympia shows the chariot contest of Pèlops and Oenomaus immediately before the race for the hand of Hipodamia. Executed in the early classical style in about 460 BC, the composition balances stillness and latent violence, with a central, authoritative divinity presiding over a sequence of attendants, charioteers, and horses. The East-Pediment's triangular geometry imposes a hierarchical zoning. An upright, centrally placed figure anchors the apex, flanking figures step down in scale and pose toward the raking cornices, and reclining figures of river gods occupy the extreme corners. Sculptors responded to these constraints by selecting a narrative moment that accommodated a mix of standing, seated and prostrate figures. Here the tense moment preceding the chariot race offers broad compositional possibilities. At the visual and symbolic center stands a single authoritative figure, conventionally identified as Zeus, whose upright, composed posture supplies a calm vertical counterpoint to the horizontal thrust of the chariots and the nervous readiness of the racers. To either side of the central deity the pedimental sequence arrays the protagonists and their retinues. One side reads as Pèlops and his attendants preparing for the race, the mirror side shows Oenomaus, his charioteer, and horses poised. The sculptors emphasize distinction between the contestants through gesture and costume. Pèlops' attendants and charioteer display anticipatory movement and secure stances, whereas Oenomaus' group conveys tense control, sometimes with a seated female, sterope or Hipodamia's attendant, signaling anxiety. The pair of chariots and especially the horse groups, rendered in tight, controlled modeling, form the pediment's principal kinetic elements, their vertical legs and arched necks creating rhythmic punctuations that modulate the flat cornice line. Female figures, including Hipodamia and attendant women, punctuate the sequence and provide the pediment's effective counterpoint. In Pausanian readings of the monument the women's placement and gestures help cue the viewer to impending narrative outcomes. Sculpturally, the women's drapery and less aggressive stances balance the masculine energy of the horses and chariots, visually encoding the social stakes of the contest: marriage, lineage, and civic prestige. The outermost zones contain male figures in seated or reclining attitudes, interpretable as spectators, seers, or lesser attendants, that occupy the steeply pitched corners where full standing poses are impractical. These figures serve two compositional tasks. First, they terminate the narrative march of figures by folding the eye back toward the center. Second, they supply a rhythmic cadencing of vertical and horizontal masses that mitigates the architectural slope. On the iconographic level the East-Pediment performs a layered argument. The immediate myth is a localized foundation tale. Pèlops' victory establishes key aristocratic lines in the ritual landscape of Elis. More broadly, the scene legitimates the Olympic Games as divinely ordered competition anchored in heroic precedent. The central Zeus figure links divine sanction to human contest, while the juxtaposition of poised contestants, anxious women and restrained spectators stages the ethical values of fair play, honor, and the civic transmission of power. Executed in the severe style, the figures display a restrained naturalism. Anatomies are measured rather than emotional extremes. Drapery falls with taut verticals, faces are calm even when bodies imply potential action. However, reconstructive ambiguity, especially in directions implied by Pausanias' text, e.g., whether right refers to viewer or deity orientation, mandates careful restraint. Some identifications are necessarily provisional. The East-Pediment of the Temple of Zeus at Olympia crystallizes how monumental narrative and architectural logic were fused in early classical Greek sculpture. Its compositional mastery, central divine axis, mirrored contestant groups, emotive female intermediaries, and terminating spectators, shapes a tightly argued iconography that redefines a local myth as public ritual precedent. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video please subscribe so you won't miss new ones.